Hey guys, I'm Kristen from College Lead. I help students with planning high school courses and extracurriculars and also guide them through the college application process. Welcome to the next episode of Campus Conversations with College Lead, where I interview current students and recent graduates of different colleges to give you a perspective of how you can prepare for college in high school and also what campus life is like. So today we have another very special guest, Arlesia. She is recently graduated from Harvard. So Arlesia, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Arlesia. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and well, I'm here because of COVID, but I normally live in New York. Like Kristen said, I graduated from Harvard last year, and I just graduated from New York University Tisch School of the Arts with my master's in performance studies. At Harvard, I double majored in biology and music, and I was also on the pre-medicine track, which is no longer interested in medicine anymore. And before that, I went to Performing Arts High School, and I grew up really involved in the arts. I'm a pianist, singer, songwriter. I wanted to be a doctor until basically like the end of college. And now I want to get my PhD and be the CEO of my own startup. So yeah, that's a little about me.
That's super exciting. Maybe let's go to high school. Can you tell me about what were your main extracurriculars in high school? I'm guessing it might be the arts, but I'd
Yeah,
like to hear a little more about that.
right. So in high school, my main extracurriculars were the arts. So, I had the opportunity of like studying piano like in high school because the high school I went to it was very like arts focused. So there were I think 4 divisions. It was dance, voice, I think like instrumental and drama. Oh, as well as the visual arts.
Mm.
So I spent like half of the time like honing in on my art. So taking piano classes in school, as well as voice classes and voice technique classes in school, as well as like taking AP classes. So it was a very good like balance of my schedule. And outside of high school, every day I was with a pre-professional ballet company,
Oh,
Chamberlain's
wow.
Ballet School, and I would after school I would go straight to ballet, and classes would be around like 2 or 3 hours, and I was very like involved. I was just as involved as in dance as well as piano and voice. And then I was a Girl Scout, and I excelled all the way to my Gold Award, which is kind of like the Eagle Scout award for Boy Scouts. And I was a part of National Charity League, which is like a mother-daughter community service organization where like mothers and daughters like go do community service in different parts of like the Dallas Metroplex. So, a lot of my like extracurriculars was like community service and arts based. So that's what kept the balance between my like rigorous academics. So yeah.
I would say your extracurricular is actually pretty rigorous too. I
Yeah,
have no idea how you
it's
managed
like
to
almost
handle
more rigorous.
everything. So, yes, one obvious question I have is how did you manage your time across all those different activities?
Mm-hmm. Well, I being that I was doing so much, I feel like I was forced to like have my time organized because like if you do a lot, you kind of have to evenly, like place like where like and when and how you're going to do everything. And so like one source of organization that I use in high school and I still use now is a planner, like in a book planner, just like writing your
Mm,
things down, not putting things in Google or like Apple calendar, which I do for like big events or like, when I teach. But
mhm.
I always had my time blocked out, and like I always had to have like a visual of like, okay, like looking at it and reminding myself, because also in doing a lot you can tend to forget like small things, right? So my time is very regimented. High school it was like 9 to 4, and then ballet was like 5 to 7 or 5 to 8, or I think it might have been like 6 to 9, I'm not sure. And then immediately when I came home, like I would do homework all the way till midnight, and then the
Oh
cycle would
man.
just continue. um so yeah, a planner was a huge part of like my scheduling and organization process, and I would highly encourage like high schoolers. Even now, I know you guys love your phones and like your devices. But when you write things down, you're more likely to remember. It's a study that's like proven. So I highly encourage that. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to ask about is, I'm sure you submitted an art supplement in your college apps. Could you
I
describe what that
did.
process was like and any advice you
Hmm.
have for students thinking about whether they should submit one?
Yeah. So honestly, if you have any artistic supplement, submit it. I think my artistic supplements, even though like the rest of my application was very good, I feel like my artistic supplement like set me apart from other students tremendously. I submitted, I think I submitted a dance video as well as like a song that I wrote, me performing a song that I wrote, and another just like classical piece that I had played. So I submitted, and I think I also submitted like just like a singing video. I submitted I submitted all of my art forms. I just submitted like little videos of all of my art forms. And I remember when I got my acceptance letter from Harvard, there was this little card, and it was from I think it was from my admissions officer or something.
Aw,
And it was
yeah.
just like, he highlighted the fact, that, me being a part of like the ballet company was like what stood out in my application. And so like colleges nowadays, everyone can get good grades or like, get a high SAT, ACT score, but colleges nowadays are now looking for like well-rounded individuals, what I call. And so it doesn't even have to be in the arts, but if you're passionate about anything, just go for it and try your best in that, and show the colleges, like it shows the colleges like who you are besides like your academics. So I heavily recommend to submit an artistic supplement.
Last question is sort of about the college application process. Is there anything
Mm-hmm.
you can share about the process of writing essays, for instance? How did you decide what topics to write about? Any advice or tips related to that?
Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to writing your personal statement, I have something to say about this. I remember when I was trying to decide the topic of like what I would write about, like I struggled with, okay, what do I think they want to see, and like what do I actually want to write about? And I
Yeah.
remember my mom was in like helping me. She's like, oh, like I think the question I was answering was like, oh, like what is your place of solace or something like that. And my mom was like, oh, like just like put church or something. And I was like, but it's not, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I literally talked about my school. Like I described my school. Like when I come into school, what do I hear? Like what do I feel? Like how does it make me feel as a person, as an artist? And I feel like that statement was your personal statement is very, very important. So whatever you write, like put your whole self into it. Don't hold back. Don't like don't try to think, well, you will try to think this, but try not to be affected by like, oh, what do I think they want to like read or see? Because if you fall into that trap, they're going to know. I think the more personal your essays and your statements are, and the more you can paint a picture to like the admissions, because they're people too, and they're literally trying to figure out who you are through some words, like without even meeting you. So the more you can put yourself into these statements, the better. And the more that tells like the admissions officers and whoever is like reviewing your application, the more they'll know about you, and they'll be able to make a better decision. So that's what I have to say. That's
No,
honestly, that's all that I used, besides like reading over my statement several times for like grammar and things like that. But yeah.
I definitely agree with the aspect of just writing whatever is an honest answer,
Mm-hmm.
rather than what you think other people want to hear, because it's likely that there's other students thinking that too, and then admission officers will get all the same type of answers. And I think being able to
And they've seen
stand
it
out.
all. They
Oh,
know.
definitely. Yeah,
They
thousands
know.
and
You can't
thousands.
fool them. So don't
Yeah,
even
thousands.
try.
I know, right? Oh man.
Yeah.
So fast forwarding a little bit, you got all the college acceptance letters. Which colleges were you deciding between or among at the end, and how did you choose Harvard?
Well, okay. So I got into Harvard early,
Mm-hmm.
but I still applied to like 19 other colleges
Dude,
because
what?
because of like I didn't know which college would give me like the best financial package.
That
And
makes sense.
I
Yeah.
honestly did not know, like, Harvard is need based, right? And I didn't really know what that meant, neither did my family.
Wait, isn't
So,
Harvard need blind?
um, I think that means the same thing. I'm not sure, but like they basically
Okay.
they give you a package based off of like your like how much your like family and your family income is or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so like even though I got into Harvard, I didn't like I applied to other schools because of money. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know which school would give me the best package. Um, but at the end, like I knew I wanted to go to Harvard, so like applying to the other schools was just kind of like okay, like let me just apply to this school. And I never really um I didn't really like toggle between the schools because when I got the financial package from Harvard, it was clearly like the best offer I'd gotten. But that was like all the way in April. So I was just like, it was like purely like a waiting game. I was thinking about Princeton, like considering it for like a small moment, because they had this like program where you would like go abroad for a year or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you would start your like schooling, and I thought that was really cool. um but I in the end I chose Harvard. And it wasn't really that hard because of course, like as someone who didn't really know that much about a lot of the colleges that I applied to, even though like I did like specific research but not that specific, it was just kind of like whichever school can give me like the best like offer like financially. And like that goes to say, like I do wish like I would have had something like college leads that would have opened me up to, okay, what are these schools really about? Because if I had to do this all over again, I probably like would have chose Brown or something because of just like my like specific like artistic interest, and they have a really good music program. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that at the time. Um, so yeah.
Moving to Harvard then, what was campus life like? What did you do outside of classes? Obviously extracurriculars, but
Right.
what else out there did you do?
So I got, as I progressed and like found my footing, I started getting more involved with like the Black organizations. So I was really involved with ABBA, the Association of Black Harvard Women. I was on their board for I think about like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I think I really just involved myself with like Black campus life. And I was also part of like the Harvard Research Association as well, and doing like their like publicity, technology, and outreach team. So my social life was like like going to like Black events and like parties, which I didn't really go to parties that much. I think I went like once a month or something. But like
Yeah.
going to like Blackboard meetings and like, involving like myself with like issues on campus. Um, and I think I also got a bit involved with like my house like community. So like, Harvard has houses, and like each house has kind of, each house has like a student board basically, where you help like organize like parties and get-togethers and things like that. Yeah, socially that's about it for me.
That
So
already
like
sounds like a
Harvard,
lot.
yeah, Harvard social life is very kind of like divided, to where like if you're not in a finals club, then it's like you're either like involved with, like I don't know, like your sports team, or, you know, like Black organizations, or you're, you know, in like Hasty Pudding or like the Lampoon or something like that. So you just have to like kind of like find your niche in that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was it like being a Black student at Harvard and also beyond that in the arts in general?
So, what was it like being a Black student at Harvard? Mm, okay, well, I guess I'll start like with the arts. I definitely, I guess with like the art forms that like I was involved in, I, you know, found myself to be like one of the only ones. Especially like in ballet, in the Harvard Ballet Company, there's about like 50, 60 girls, and I was the only Black girl. And that's when like my eyes really started opening as to like, there really isn't like that many people who look like me in these art forms. And even in music classes, like if it wasn't like I don't know, a jazz or hip hop class, you know, if it was just like music theory, like I would be the only one. And like I didn't feel like I was, you know, I don't know, like what's the word called, like singled out or whatever, because, you know, the community was very warm and open. So as like a Black student, like in general, um I felt, you know, pretty accepted. um but like as I began, you know, like climbing up in the ranks in terms of like my academics, like even doing thesis research, I definitely saw that there was a huge just deficit with students of color, like in science and like in research. And there actually, I did experience a bout of racism there,
Oh,
with the
yeah.
faculty when I was doing uh, my research. Basically, like long story short, my lab, it was like 3 months before like I turned my thesis in, or like my thesis was going to be due, and I had like one more experiment that I had to do for my research, and my lab like was basically like, oh, like we can't support you anymore. And the postdoc, or the PhD student who I was working with, said things like, oh, like if you would have spent more time on this project, like you did, like you've done music and ballet or something, then you probably would have been successful. And like telling me that she didn't think I could finish. And I was like, it's not up to you. Like, this is my project, you know? And I had like a whole like system set out, and I was going to finish, but they literally did not allow me to finish. And
Oh my
it
God.
was honestly, it was probably one of the most terrifying moments and very like telling moments, because I was still on the fence about doing medicine and like research. And this was the fall of my senior year, and this was literally the week before Christmas break, and I was
Oh
freaking
my
out.
God.
I know. And
Yeah, dude, like thesis stuff is due real soon after that.
right, but everyone is always in like a hurry. And like the thing about my project, it was very specialized in that like it took a lot of work just to get where I was, and I was over halfway done. And to say to literally a Black woman and a Black student, the only one in the lab, that
Yeah.
you think I can't do it, and like attack like my literal like character and say like, oh, like, well, if you would have tried as hard as like you did here, then like you would have been successful. Anyway, I didn't deem it as racism until I brought it to because I did a joint thesis between music and like neurobio.
Mhm.
And I went to my, you know, thesis advisor, and like I explained to her, and I sent her email threads, everything I had. And she was like, Arlesia, she was like, this is literally racism. And I was just like, what? And it definitely didn't help with the fact that, like, okay, you know, in these classes, like the 2 or 3 Black students in these science classes stick together, and like, you know, as a Black student, like I'm really trying to like pave the way and like break some boundaries. But like my thesis was the first one of its kind, And, you know, to be told that and not be encouraged, like if my postdoc was Black, I definitely would have finished it, you know, like, but she was this, you know, like 30-year-old like white woman from California. And it was very discouraging. And I think that kind of just kind of like a hallmark to mm, interesting. Like I didn't really know like this was, I knew it existed, but like it wasn't until I experienced it that like I really realized, okay, like, you know, discrimination is real, and like the color of my skin can you know, people can literally use the color of my skin or like the fact that I look different to like tell me that, oh, they don't think I can do it, you know. Like I know if I was a white man on that campus, like that would have not, like I would have not have an issue with that, you know. um so I tried my hardest though. I think like as a Black student, especially like at a politically white institution like Harvard, you have to learn how to stand out and you know, set yourself apart from like other people and other students. You know, there's this saying like if you're Black, you have to try twice as hard to get even like half as far. And it's definitely true. I definitely agree. I felt that if I didn't, you know, do like a joint concentration or like, you know, do specific research like as a Black woman, then like I wasn't doing enough, you know. Like it was definitely like this pressure of like having to feel that I had to like work harder and prove myself because, you know, I was Black. And, you know, usually people don't really put Black people, especially Black women, in categories like STEM or like classical music even, you know. It's, there's definitely a stereotype um against that. So I made it work. And I used it to my advantage, and that's all I can say. I tried the hardest I could, and I still got my joint concentration and still finished my research regardless of who told me no. And I just kept going.
I
So
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, I know it's definitely true, and I've seen this in some of my other friends on campus too, but you guys have to try twice as hard at least to get
At least, yeah.
just as far as other people, because I'm also a minority, but my skin is like the same color as the wall behind me. That does say something about
Mm-hmm.
um, how people might treat me on campus. And I just want to say thank you for working to pave the path for other
Oh
Black
yeah.
women. Obviously, it's not my place to say thank you, but on behalf of the viewers, if any one of them is Black,
Mm-hmm.
then I think this will definitely mean a lot to them. But also in the process, don't forget to also care for yourself. Self-care is important.
Right. Yeah.
Because I know that if you work hard while ignoring yourself and your own health in the process,
Yeah, exactly.
it's much more difficult. So,
Definitely. Your
yeah.
mental health is very important, and you should not forget that. And I did forget that a few times, but you know, don't leave your mental health behind. Like keep taking it with you.
I know, right? This is the one
Yeah.
thing you don't want to leave behind. Would you say that this experience is something that maybe turned you away from continuing to pursue medicine?
Mm. It was, honestly. Maybe not, it wasn't like the single thing that turned me away, but you know, I the science classes I was taking at Harvard were like very challenging, and they are very challenging, but I it wasn't coming to me as easily as like music was. And I wasn't excelling in the ways that I wanted to. And my thought process was, if I have to work this hard just to like barely even like get to where I need to be, you know, like barely like um you know, not like living up to my expectations basically, then I'm going to continue to be unhappy, and that's not what I want to do. And I think with music, not that it came easily because it definitely had its challenges, but I'd always had like a natural passion, a natural affinity for music. And you know, I definitely am naturally talented in like certain ways, like musically, but it was the thing that like fulfilled me. And like when I had low times, like it was the thing that brought me out of that, and that continued to like help me push forward even in my research and even in pursuing science. And I think that had something to say for itself. And when I was really reflecting and, you know, like studying for the MCAT and things, um I was just like, it shouldn't be this like unenjoyable, you know. um, if you notice that you're forcing yourself to do something and you're not feeling like moved or like passionate about it, then it's probably not the thing you should do. Um, and that's what I ultimately realized, especially like when I started graduate school last year and finished it a few weeks ago. But there were so many other like possibilities for me in that area, and I was like making it happen for myself, and I was enjoying it, you know, even though it did pose its own challenges. um I think is not to say that like I wasn't passionate about science or medicine. I still am passionate about it, and I really respect, you know, the people in that field and in that area. But I just thought, and I know that I can do better work and do the work that I want to in impacting like the communities that I want to, um, going down like the arts path. Um, so yeah, that's just what it came down to. I could have continued, you know, I did all the pre-medicine requisites, you know, but it just wasn't for me. And that's okay.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you found something that is again really enjoyable, because I think that is a huge part of what makes life great. I
Mhm.
think for me, I was always trying to explore and to see what I enjoy studying. And even though I landed on neuroscience, I'm working as a PM now and also in education, but it's something that I
Right.
love doing. So yeah, I think that just goes to show how whatever you study in college doesn't necessarily need to translate to what you want to do post grad.
100%.
Obviously, there are a couple of really awful bumps that happened during your time in Harvard, but what future do you envision for, I guess, both campus life at Harvard and beyond in terms of diversity?
Yeah, so there I'm currently like working on my own startup like slash project called Classic. So it's basically like a nonprofit organization, um basically dedicated to giving like a classical fine arts education to the underserved like Black and brown students. And you know, like I did mention previously, like there's a deficit of like Black and brown people like in the classical fine arts. And so like last year when I started my time at Tisch, I did a fellowship called
Mm,
the Career Design Fellowship at NYU Entrepreneur Lab, and I really got to work on this. And my vision is to run my own school, and like to be the head of my own school. And like that would start with this program, and then, you know, it would like, I don't know, through my work and, you know, bringing like Black and brown musicians together with these students who like want to learn ballet or like piano or like violin. I hope to like expand that community and, and like increase diversity, like in the classical fine arts. So I'm definitely very dedicated to doing that.
that's really exciting. Could you tell me a little bit more about your startup, and if any
Oh,
viewers watching this are interested in
yeah.
either getting involved or participating or just learning more about it, um, how can they do so?
Definitely. So, like I said, like my start is dedicated to um, giving like classical fine arts lessons to like Black and brown students. So basically, like we're going to start off as like an after school program in New York. And this is still like in the works, but ideally partner with a school, and work with students after school and having some volunteers. So, you know, if any of your college lead students or anybody goes to a college in New York, you guys will be in, you know, practice an instrument. You guys are more than welcome to join us. So basically what we envision right now is like college students who play, you know, like piano, voice, dance, you know, ballet, violin, whatever, to work with these students after school, And of course these lessons would be free of charge. We're currently like applying to grants to like get this rolling, so we can give like the resources of any kind of music or like ballet shoes or like anything the student may need to excel in this area. But yeah, so we want to ideally start it off as an after school program, and hopefully like if we get like a big student base, we can start like developing like at other schools and maybe have like our own like building. And if this continues and like we have volunteers and like professional musicians can also like dedicate their time, hopefully this gets big enough to where like, okay, like we can have our own building and like have our own school. And like the purpose of this is, a lot of like my like Black friends or like, friends of color, they would like start ballet or like piano when they were little, but they would never continue it, even like they lost interest or like they couldn't afford it. So this program is going to be like for children as young as like 6 8 to as old as like 18. And I want them to like develop this community and like camaraderie like among themselves, and so they won't feel discouraged to like drop out of this or like discontinue, because they have a community of kids like their age to keep going. And so it just kind of like reminded me of my experience of like feeling like I was the only one, and not really feeling like motivated to continue, even though I did. But that definitely like made the process a little bit harder, like not like knowing anybody like me doing it, right? And so I feel like, okay, if we can like bring a group of students together and they're all doing this together, then it will continue to flourish, and hopefully they will pursue this art form like on a more professional level, and you want to dedicate their time and like be in these groups. And yeah, so I just want to start like for lack of better words, like infiltrating like the fine arts system, and so we can see more Black dancers on stage, and we can see more Black violinists in the orchestra and Black opera singers. And so yeah, that is so if you guys want to volunteer, I guess Kristen, you can leave our email. It's classicsarts@gmail.com, and I'll also send you like I made a Google Doc for those who like want to get involved, and so you can just fill out the Google Doc. And we still need like team members and volunteers, so any way you want to be interested, if you want to learn about entrepreneurship, because we're still in startup mode, we would love to have you. So.
Yeah, I'll definitely grab some of that information from you, and then I'll leave it in the description below.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool.
One last question I just want to sort of end on is, what encouragement or words of advice do you have for other students of color who are watching this video, whether they're pursuing STEM or the arts or anything else?
I would just say, this is so cliche, but honestly, be unapologetically you, okay? Like, don't hold back. There are stereotypes and what have you right now, and politically white institutions need you guys. Literally, we need more of you all, and don't be afraid to apply to schools like Harvard or Princeton or Dartmouth or like wherever you want to apply to. And like I mentioned this earlier, but like reach out. Like, you can put my email down below, but like reach out to people who are willing to help and like encourage you and motivate you, because that is like very, very important throughout the whole process. I think one thing I was very grateful for was, my mom really pushed me, because she believed in like my potential, and like, she believes that I can like work even harder or like go higher. I've considered going to like SMU for the longest time. SMU is a college in Dallas. And, my mom was like, oh, you should apply to Harvard. People who will like motivate you and influence you to take that next step or to reach extra, extra high. reach out for encouragement, reach out for help. There's so many resources out there even now, so for like students of color and like Black and brown students, and I'm one of those resources. So if you know anybody, reach out to them. Don't be afraid. You're literally the future. And like, we need you all. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Elysia, and also for just being vulnerable and open to share some of these very personal stories, even like your experience of racism at Harvard, because I feel like that's something that a lot of students will very much appreciate to have heard and know that that is something that they should either be prepared for or take that as encouragement to continue to push forward. Mm-hmm. So yeah, to any viewers who made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. And to our special speaker, thank you so much for your time. And
yes, thank you.
Awesome. I'll see you guys in the next episode.